Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all enjoying the second day. It's nice to be here. For those who I didn't meet yesterday, I'm Lou. I'm the chair of Innovate Finance, which is a real privilege, as many of you will hear me say. I'm also, because the team are here, I'm also chair of the board in Stripe UK. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our next guest. And for anybody who was at FinTech for a Force for Good at the end of last year, her speech was the one speech that so many people talked about having an impact and a connection right across the industry with our founders, the regulators, supporting bodies and members and trade bodies. And I'm delighted Tulip Siddiq, who is the Shadow Economic Secretary to the Treasury and Shadow City Minister, has agreed to come today to speak to us. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tulip now, who's going to talk you through her views on our industry. Thank you again for supporting us, Tulip.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you to everyone at Innovate Finance for organising this fantastic global summit. I'm sure everyone here is aware, as I am, that there's been many challenges in the last 12 months for the international fintech sector. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank was felt across the industry, and we've seen a decline in global investment. But despite these challenges, I'm very pleased to say that the UK has remained a top destination for fintech investment, attracting $12.5 billion of investment last year, second only to the US, and more than all of the next 10 European countries combined. The strength and resilience of our financial services sector, our reputation for high regulatory standards and legal services, our world-leading universities, and unrivaled access to highly skilled tech workforce all come together to make Britain the destination in Europe to invest in fintech. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity today to talk a bit about how a Labour government will build on these advantages. And before anyone asks me, I do not know when the next general election is going to be, because lots of people have asked that. But what I do know is that our manifesto for the next general election will very clearly set out our ambition to make Britain the best place to start and grow a fintech company, not just in Europe, but in the whole world. Keir Starmer has said to me that this mission has never been more important. I've now been Labour's Shadow City Minister for just over a year, and during this time, I think it's fair to say I've been blown away by the work of the fintech companies to provide new, innovative solutions to the biggest challenges of the 21st century, whether that's climate change or the cost of living crisis. For example, EarthChain, which is based in Leeds, is utilising blockchain technology to enable businesses, including a major bank, to gain emission insights from their spending data to incentivise greener behaviours. While firms such as Atom Bank are leading the way in supporting people through the cost of living crisis, the bank has developed technology which allows them to identify and signpost customers in financial difficulty to appropriate support, such as the debt charity Step Change, who I met with recently and who I was so impressed with. Rachel Reeves and I are very aware that supporting small and medium-sized British businesses to modernise and thrive will be key to getting our economy growing again and boosting living standards after more than a decade of stagnant growth and poor productivity. Fintech, for us, will be at the heart of this. A recent report by the British Business Bank found that last year, challenger banks accounted for 55% of all lendings to UK SMEs. But Rachel and I are also very aware that if the full potential of fintech as a force for good is to be realised, the state will have to play a proactive role in championing new and exciting technologies. That's why I'm proud to announce that a Labour government will work hand in hand with your sector to transform our economy, and this will include reviewing how open banking rules can be applied to a wider range of services, or how the gap between financial guidance and advice can be addressed through new AI-driven technologies. We're also fully committed to supporting the sector to take advantage of opportunities outside the EU. I gave my full support to the Financial Services and Markets Bill, which will empower the FCA and the PRA to tailor fintech regulations to meet the needs of the UK market. While EU regulation of fintech technologies could often be overly prescriptive, Labour Party will take a more outcomes-based approach to allow the UK to protect consumers and benefit from the gains in productivity that new technologies can bring. However, you don't need me to tell you that Europe will always remain an important export market for UK fintech, and a stronger relationship with our closest trading partner will be key to ensuring the future competitiveness and growth of the sector. A Labour government would prioritise finalising a memorandum of understanding on regulatory cooperation with the EU and would support UK fintechs to access European talent by negotiating for mutual recognition of professional qualifications for our service sectors. The UK must also do more to foster domestic talent. Fintech can't reach its full potential while neglecting the skills of half the workforce. We know there's a significant gender pay gap which still exists in the sector. Ernst & Young estimate that it stands at a shocking 22%. This is shutting women out of top leadership positions. Deloitte estimates that only 17% of senior fintech roles are held by women. And we know that women just make up 11%, only 11% of fintech board seat holders. And I think this is simply unacceptable. And that's why Labour has committed to working with the sector and with regulators to address the barriers facing women in fintech and ensuring that the pioneering women who want to set up and grow a business get a fair shot at accessing the capital they need. I was recently invited to a breakfast briefing by Amanda Blank to celebrate the $10 million investment by Aviva into the Anthemis Female Innovators Lab Fund. And there was a very powerful discussion, which I was privy to, about how we as a country need to develop and support the pipeline of female talent in fintech and financial services. Equally, we know that the future strength of the sector can't depend on London alone. And I say this as a London MP who represents Hampstead and Kilburn, which is home to many tech entrepreneurs and city workers. And of course, I always welcome investment into my city. London attracted around $9 billion of fintech investment every year. And of course, this should be celebrated. But this compares to just $700 million invested in financial technology companies based outside London and the South East. For example, Greater Manchester is emerging as a fintech centre in the North-West. Companies in the city, such as Access Pay, a fintech company enabling companies to make payments and manage cash more efficiently, and Nevo, a secure instant messaging platform that connects consumers to financial institutions, are leading the way. But we want to see fintech hubs in every region possible from the Labour Party, and that's why we want to increase the supply of domestic talent and access to investment in every part of the country. Labour would create tech hubs in every region by establishing a new expert body, Skills England, to coordinate efforts between businesses and the education sector to ensure that the regions have the skills they need to benefit from technological change. But if the UK is to reach its potential at the top of the league table in fintech, we need to get more capital behind innovative fintech firms to drive growth in every part of the country. We know that capital locked in pension funds is vital for the growth of innovative companies. But compared to some of our peers, the UK sees relatively little patient capital funding coming from pension funds. While in the US, around 70% of venture capital funding comes from pension funds, in the UK, this figure is under 20%. This means that too often we see UK fintech firms being bought by bigger players in the US, or going elsewhere where they look to scale up and grow. And that's why Rachel Reeves commissioned a group of industry leaders to explore how to address this issue. The report published at the end of last year and its findings will be an important starting point for a future Labour government. This includes an acceleration of the pooling of pension fund cash to be directed towards high-growth startups to fill the multi-billion-pound funding gap facing the sector. Incentivising local government pension schemes to invest in regional businesses such as fintech companies, and supporting pension funds to invest alongside the British Investment Bank in high-growth firms. So, in conclusion, we as a Labour Party are committed to fostering and building on the UK's key advantages that underpin our status as a global centre for fintech. Whether that's the competitiveness of our financial services sector, our high regulatory standards, or access to a highly skilled workforce, rest assured, Labour's ambitions for your industry won't stop just there. We will work with you to unlock the full potential of fintech, to radically transform the financial services sector, to improve transparency and deliver green growth. We will make sure in the Labour Party that we champion the adoption of new technologies in every part of the economy and unleash billions of pounds of pension fund capital for investment into the businesses of the future. We want to work with you because together we will ensure that the UK is the best country in the world to start, scale, and grow a fintech. Thank you.